AEW present their first pay-per-view of 2025 this Sunday night with AEW Revolution from the Crypto.com Arena in Los Angeles, California. And with AEW's first pay-per-view of the year, there are plenty of big surprises that could be set to happen this weekend. We'll let you know some of them in this countdown video. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of stories to get into, and one of the biggest stories this week and coming out into next week will, of course, be AEW Revolution this weekend, this Sunday, from the Crypto.com Arena in Los Angeles, California. And as I said recently, we are going to be bringing more of these countdown videos here on the channel. So if you enjoy them, let me know your thoughts about them in the comment section below. Do you agree? Do you disagree with some of the selections? Do you disagree with some of the predictions, some of the opinions? Let me know your reaction to it and get involved in the comment section. So it's AEW's first pay-per-view offering of 2025 this weekend, and that means AEW will likely be looking to start the year with a bang. AEW Revolution has usually been a critically acclaimed pay-per-view presentation from All Elite Wrestling. They'll be looking to continue that as they present it from LA on Sunday. So let's get straight into 5 possible surprises. These aren't necessarily spoilers. They might be if we get them right, but these are just predictions, guesses as to 5 possible surprises we could see this Sunday in LA. Let's begin with the return of the AEW Executive Vice Presidents, the Young Bucks. Now, so far in 2025, we haven't seen the former AEW World Tag Team Champions in All Elite Wrestling. We've only seen them in New Japan Pro Wrestling. We saw them at the beginning of the year for the Wrestle Dynasty pay-per-view, where they won the IWGP World Heavyweight Tag Team Championships. They dropped them not long after, I think it was 3 or 4 weeks later, at New Japan's The New Beginning in Osaka event, dropping the championships at the time. And that's the only 2 matches they've had this year. It was in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Now, it had been reported recently that the Bucks were backstage at an AEW Dynamite television taping in California. Of course, they're from California. That's their home state. And given that the event is taking place in Los Angeles, California, many are expecting them to return fairly soon. Now, some said it was actually quite surprising that they didn't return recently at those shows in LA, or in California rather. So are they being held off and waiting to return at a big pay-per-view? Well, it's certainly possible, and it certainly does kind of feel like that, doesn't it? So that might be what AEW is waiting for here when it comes to this big upcoming pay-per-view event. Now, where they would return, what match they would return in, it remains to be seen. Of course, we know that Kazuchika Okada is defending his AEW Continental Championship on the show. Maybe it's in that match. We know that Kenny Omega is going to be wrestling at this show. He's going to be challenging for the AEW International Championship. It could be involved in that. The last time we saw the Young Bucks was last year when they dropped the AEW World Tag Team Championships to Private Party at the time. That was on the AEW Fright Night edition of Dynamite. And after that, they said to Christopher Daniels that they were going to be working from home. So could we see them return as part of the Death Riders storyline? With all the chaos that's been going on in AEW regarding Jon Moxley's factions, could the AEW EVPs come back and suddenly be good guys again? We'll have to wait and see. Of course, they did main event this very pay-per-view last year in Sting's retirement match alongside Darby Allin. Of course, the Young Bucks lost that match, didn't regain the AEW World Tag Team Championships, although it wasn't long afterwards that they did become the Tag Team Champions once again. So could the Young Bucks be a potential surprise? Could their return back to AEW be a potential surprise that we see on Sunday night? Now, let's go to another one. This certainly would be a surprise, wouldn't it? Could Prince Nana turn on Swerve Strickland? Now, Swerve Strickland this Sunday at AEW Revolution will be facing off against Ricochet, and this match will be determining who is going to be the number 1 contender for the AEW World Championship. Now, Swerve is looking to get back into the title hunt. Ricochet is looking to ascend up the card to become a worthy challenger for the AEW World Championship. Some are suggesting that Ricochet might actually be doing some of the best work of his career since he turned heel in AEW. This story has largely been built around, of course, his vicious attack that Ricochet did on Swerve Strickland, bloodying him in the process, stabbing him with a pair of scissors, but also it's been built on the fact that he stole Prince Nana's robe. Now, we have seen over the last few months when it comes to Swerve Strickland and Prince Nana that Prince Nana has been heavily involved in some of Swerve's storylines when it came to the Hurt Syndicate trying to recruit Swerve Strickland in the first place. This was when Swerve was off television, and eventually Swerve came back at Wrestle Dream. He sided with Prince Nana. He didn't end up defeating the Hurt Syndicate. Maybe they'll revisit that at some point, because of course he did lose that match against Bobby Lashley. Could it be a situation where actually Ricochet could actually have Prince Nana support moving forward? Could Ricochet actually be siding with Prince Nana, and that's the reason he's been able to keep the robe in the first place. Now, Swerve, many are expecting him, as I said, to jump back in to the World Championship picture. It does depend on who is the champion coming out of AEW Revolution, of course. If it is still Jon Moxley, a heel, then you would think the babyface Swerve Strickland would make sense. And Strickland, as I mentioned, hasn't really been in that picture since dropping the championship to Bryan Danielson at All In last year. So, is there a possibility that maybe before he even gets back to winning the World Championship, Nana turns on Swerve, allows Ricochet to become the number one contender, and maybe Ricochet challenges a babyface champion? Is that possible? And maybe that's a bit of a spoiler for another surprise that could happen later on in the show. Let me know your thoughts about that one. Could we see possibly Prince Nana no longer do the Swerve dance and actually side with Ricochet moving forward? Some do say that Ricochet maybe needs a mouthpiece. He's not the best promo guy, even though his heel promos have been better than his babyface promos in AEW. But would a manager like Prince Nana be perfect for Ricochet? Let me know your thoughts about that one. Let's go to the next possible surprise, and that's something that's building. And that, of course, is Kenny Omega versus Kazuchika Okada in All Elite Wrestling. This has been building for quite some time. Of course, we know about Kenny Omega and Kazuchika Okada's storied history with their matches in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Some of the greatest pro wrestling matches of all time. But they've yet to wrestle against each other inside of an AEW ring. The moment that Kazuchika Okada signed with AEW last year, many were wondering it's just a matter of time before Okada versus Omega in AEW. Now, for a long time, it wasn't possible, of course, because Kenny Omega was out of action for over a year due to complications with diverticulitis. Omega made his return to, I guess, active competition at the beginning of this year at Wrestle Dynasty, facing off against Gabe Kidd, but he actually made his return to AEW a couple of times. One was in the middle of last year when he appeared in his hometown of Winnipeg, actually on AEW Dynamite. Who was he confronted by at that time? He was confronted by Kazuchika Okada. Then the Young Bucks attacked him along with Okada. That was a way to write Kenny Omega off of television so he could have the surgery and begin to continue having a road to recovery to in-ring competition, which of course he now has done. When he returned to AEW television last year, right at the end of the year at AEW World's End, at that pay-per-view, when did he actually make his return? Well, it was after Kazuchika Okada won the AEW Continental Classic, retaining the AEW Continental Championship in the process. And actually, at the time, they had an image, which was them two facing off in the ring with AEW All in Texas looming over, potentially suggesting that that was a match that AEW was looking to do for the future. A big stadium show in the United States. They're really their first proper stadium show in the US. It would make sense, wouldn't it? That would be Omega versus Okada. Now, there have been reports and rumors recently suggesting that we could get possibly a unification match at AEW All in Texas, or certainly at some point between Kazuchika Okada and Kenny Omega. And the reason we could be getting that is because, as I mentioned earlier on, Kazuchika Okada will be defending his AEW Continental Championship this weekend at Revolution against Brody King. Many expect Okada to retain his championship in that match, so he would remain as the Continental Champion. Kenny Omega is set to challenge for Konosuke Takeshita's AEW International Championship as he continues his rivalry with the Don Callis family. It had been rumored and reported that it has been pitched in creative meetings, certainly, of Okada versus Omega, title for title, and possibly unifying both the Continental Championship and the International Championship. A criticism of AEW has been that there are too many titles and there's no real hierarchy as to what the mid-card titles are in terms of importance. Is the TNT Championship more important than the Continental Championship? Is the International Championship more important than both of them or less than both of them? People don't really know. And do you really need that many championships? Kind of a less is more approach when it comes to titles, adding the significance, adding the glory, adding the prestige to it, instead of having all of these titles and every match being a title match. It really kind of loses that appeal and meaning, doesn't it? So Some are suggesting one of the big featured matches at AEW All In Texas later on this year could be, for the first time in an AEW ring, Okada versus Omega, title for title. It's a pretty big match, and maybe we'll see more seeds being planted Sunday at Revolution in the Crypto.com arena with another Omega and Okada face-off. Now, another surprise we could possibly see at Revolution this weekend is a brand new AEW World Champion in the form of Cope. Now, Cope has returned to AEW, and since he's returned, he's been feuding with the current AEW World Champion, Jon Moxley, and the Death Riders. And the reason why some are suggesting that Cope could possibly win the AEW World Championship this weekend is due to the fact that no one really knows what's going on with this Death Riders angle. When Jon Moxley turned heel on Bryan Danielson last year, and eventually when he won the AEW World Championship, many thought, okay, we're going to be getting a new faction. The Blackpool Combat Club's going to evolve into something else. And a lot of the Moxley promos talked about defending AEW and trying to raise the standards of it. And many people are still confused to this day. Just what is the purpose of the Death Riders? What is this long-term goal? Carrying the championship around in the briefcase. Some thought there was going to be a sort of master manipulator behind the scenes, but it doesn't look like that's actually going to happen. It just largely confused everyone. And sometimes when it comes to these kind of storylines in AEW, when it's been confusing and it's not so great, they kind of just get to the pay-per-view just so they can blow the angle off and go in a different direction. And that's certainly a possibility. The story coming into AEW Revolution has been that all of the members of the Death Riders have been picked off by concertos, by walking out, whether it's Pac getting hit with a concerto by Cope, whether it's Claudio Castagnoli getting hit by a concerto by Cope, whether it's Marina Shafir getting hit by a concerto by Willow Nightingale, whether it's right there, you can see it on Dynamite this past Wednesday, Wheeler Yuta shaking hands with Cope and then walking out on Jon Moxley. For the first time, Jon Moxley is by himself. Jon Moxley doesn't have the backup of the Death Riders. And if he doesn't have the backup of the Death Riders, maybe it's actually going to be Cope who defeats Moxley and takes the championship from out of the briefcase and puts it on his shoulder. And that would maybe think that we're going to have a babyface champion and the reign of the Death Riders is over. The faction splits up possibly and they go in a different direction because the storyline just hasn't really made all that much sense and really hasn't been that critically praised. Now, some would say the problem with this is that you've got a situation where yet again an established former WWE guy is the AEW World Champion, and AEW needs to get away from putting their championships on older talents. Of course, Moxley's not necessarily an older talent, but once again, you'd have a world championship on a guy that's in his 40s, heading into his 50s. Is that really the right thing to do? Probably not. I mean, Cope actually is 51 years old. Should the world champion of AEW be 51 years old? Should they get it on a younger guy? Well, maybe there's kind of a hot potato plan here when it comes to the AEW World Championship, because if Cope does indeed defeat Jon Moxley and win the AEW World Championship, there is a large possibility that the final surprise of the night could still be yet to come, because this has happened to Cope before in AEW, where he's won a championship and then very quickly he's had a contract cashed in on him by his former best friend, Christian Cage. Many people are speculating and theorizing we could see Cope win the AEW World Championship Sunday against Jon Moxley and only be the champion for a few minutes. We have seen Christian Cage attempt several times to cash in his contract good for an AEW World Championship match. He won this contract back at AEW All In last year in London, England, winning the Casino Gauntlet match in the process. And again, he's tried to cash in a couple of times. He's been thwarted many a times. He was thwarted at AEW Wrestle Dream last year to cash in this contract, and maybe, just maybe, now would be the time to do it. And the reason I say that many people are theorizing this would be the case is because it has actually kind of happened before. We saw a situation back in 2020, was it 2023? I forget when it was, where Christian Cage was defeated by then Adam Copeland, and Copeland became the AEW TNT champion. However, earlier on in the evening, we saw a situation where Luchasaurus, Killswitch, had won an opportunity for a contract at a TNT a TNT title match, and after Cope had defeated Christian Cage, immediately Christian Cage told Killswitch to give him the contract. He cashed it in and won the TNT Championship back in the process just a few seconds later. This is exactly what could happen Sunday night. We could see a situation where Cope wins the title, out comes Christian Cage and the Patriarchy. They attack Cope once again, and we lead to a situation where Christian Cage actually leaves as the AEW World Champion. That could possibly lead to a situation where maybe you've got Christian versus maybe Swerve, or Christian versus another babyface going into the future AEW pay-per-view events. Would it be a surprise if it's that predictable? We don't know, but it's got to cash in at some point, and it's been quite some time, hasn't it, since Christian Cage actually won that championship contract back at AEW All In. In fact, at AEW Revolution, it will have been 196 days since Christian Cage won the contract that allows him to cash in on anyone who may be All Elite Wrestling World Champion. So is Sunday night going to be the night? Is that how they're going to end or this kind of Death Riders storyline, by pivoting back to Christian versus Cope, by pivoting back to that and having a situation where in one night we have 3 different world champions in Moxley, Cope, and then Christian Cage? That certainly would be a surprise, wouldn't it? So there you go, guys. What do you think of those possible surprises for AEW Revolution? We're also going to be doing another video about possible returns happening this weekend too, so be sure to check that one out. But be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. Do you agree, disagree with some of these possible surprises? Which ones do you think are going to happen? Which one don't you think are going to happen? In addition to that, are there any potential surprises that I might have actually missed that could happen this weekend that you determine to be a surprise? Let me know your thoughts, your reaction to all of it in the comment section below. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right hand corner. A reminder, I will be doing a Revolution watch along and post show on Sunday night, so be sure to join me there live, and we're going to have a very busy March. There's a lot of watch alongs and post shows coming up, so be sure to subscribe, click the notification bell, and remember to join the WN365 roster. Hopefully I'll speak to you again very, very soon. I'm out of here.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.